Strap in, buckle up, and get ready to lay it on the line. This is Not Speeding, Just Qualifying, a podcast that's just as fast as it sounds. What's good, family? David here. Welcome back, and welcome to episode number 2 of the No Speeding, Just Qualifying podcast. Glad you guys came back after I poured my heart out to you guys yesterday in my first episode. Just a little way for you guys to get to know me, and I'm glad you guys stuck around and decided to come on back for another episode. Today, we're really going to get into the meat and potatoes. We're going to talk some racing today, and this week is a special week as we are going to kick off the North American motorsports calendar with one of the biggest races, the longest race in the United States that will take place all year long, and that is the Rolex 24 at Daytona. The 63rd running of this race is truly one of the biggest sports car races in the world. It makes up the proverbial sports car racing endurance triple crown, which is Daytona, the 12 Hours of Sebring, which will actually be the next race on the calendar. Talk about that a little bit more as well. And then also the famed 24 Hours of Le Mans, which is one of my favorite races, which you heard in episode 1. So Daytona and Sebring, they make up two parts of this huge endurance racing triple crown, but they're also organized by IMSA. David, who is IMSA? Glad you asked. IMSA stands for the International Motorsports Association. It is the premier governing body for sports car racing here in the United States. They are the sanctioning body that currently sanctions 8 different championships, 5 of them single class, but we'll get to that in a bit. But first, let's go back down memory lane and give you a little bit of a scoop on how we got here. IMSA was founded in 1969 by John Bishop with help from NASCAR founder Bill France. Bishop and IMSA helped to build the original golden era of sports car racing, which was those immaculate Grand Touring prototypes of the 1980s. Anybody who's anybody in terms of car makers came to play in this series. Porsche, Ford, Chevrolet, Buick, Nissan, Toyota, Jaguar. You name them, they were here with their super high-tech prototypes going 200 plus mile an hour on not just some of the greatest tracks in America like Daytona, Sebring, Road America, and Laguna Seca, but also on some of the most immaculate street circuits laid out in cities such as San Antonio, Tampa, and San Diego. And they were adored by fans across the country and then some. People from across the world even came over not just to drive in the races, but just to watch them as well. And how can I not mention the epic Grand Prix of Miami that lasted from 1983 to 1993 on the IMSA calendar? Unfortunately, all good things came to an end, and in 1993, as prices were spiraling out of control, the GTP formula and the Camel GT Championship, as it was known by its sponsor at the time, came to its abrupt end. And sports car racing in America kind of entered this 2-decade run of wilderness. First, there was the United States Road Racing Championship that co-inhabited with IMSA, which was rebranded as Professional Sports Car Racing. Those 2 series lasted until the end of the 1990s. They were replaced by 2 new series. The American Le Mans Series, which was sanctioned by a rebranded IMSA at the time, and the Grand American Road Racing Series, which was a cheaper alternative to the American Le Mans Series. The American Le Mans Series ran the same rule sets as the 24 Hours of Le Mans, while the Grand Am Series had their own rule set, like I said, to kind of lay cost down. So these two series went on for about another decade plus. The American Le Mans series had the 12 Hours of Sebring and the newly founded Petit Le Mans that was born at the end of the 1990s, while Grand Am held the Rolex 24 and another sports car racing classic here in the U.S., the 6 Hours of Watkins Glen up in New York. Well, in 2012, Grand Am and the American Le Mans series decided, okay, we need to come together. There's way too much money going around. We don't want people losing budgets, so we need to make this work. So in 2012, the American Le Mans series and Grand Am announced that they were going to merge into one United Sports Car Championship, and in 2014 the United Sports Car Championship returned IMSA as the sanctioning body of sports car racing once again. And honestly, the series has only grown in leaps and bounds. From combining the LMP2 and the Daytona prototype categories into one from the initial beginning, to GT3 regulations being adopted in 2016, to Daytona Prototype International from 2017 to 2022, now as it embraces a new modern era run in sports car racing with the LMDH hypercar converged regulations and bringing back the legendary GTP moniker for this top flight class of sports car racing. Manufacturers are lining up to race in IMSA, and you really could not ask for a better time. Over the weekend at the Roar Daytona, I happened to run in and get a few words with the man who is responsible for overseeing IMSA's rise and its continued growth. John Doonan is no stranger to the American sports car paddock. After spending over 15 years with Mazda, culminating as the director of motorsports for the better part of 8 years, Doonan left Mazda in 2019 to take over as president of the International Motorsports Association, a title he wears with pride every single day. And if you go to Daytona this weekend and run into him while he's walking through the paddock or on the grid, you will see why he is the right man for the job. So enjoy this piece as I talk to John about 2025 and where IMSA looks to go from here. Hey everybody, happy Saturday morning. David Lawrence here at Daytona International Speedway. I have none other than IMSA President John Doonan with me. John, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate you stopping, taking a couple moments for me. First question, with everything that's going on, you've been in sports car racing for so many years. How optimistic, how positive are you with everything going on in the world of sports car racing right now, with so many manufacturers participating in IMSA coming to the Rolex?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And just the fan vote. They're voting by being here. This turnout we have for the Roar before the 24, I would argue is race day for Rolex 24 maybe 10 years ago. So we're thrilled that so many folks are engaged with the product. And as you say, the product is 18 auto manufacturers deciding that IMSA is the place for them to use as a marketing tool, to talk about their brand, a technology tool to talk about current road car technology and also what's possible going forward. So I think it's something we should be proud of as a sport and also do our ever best to continue to market.
And as you said, continuing to marketing, what does marketing for IMSA look like for 2025 and beyond? We've heard so many positive news about Ford, McLaren. We know Hyundai Genesis is coming in 2027 to the series. What does marketing look like going into that next era and beyond?
Well, certainly from a series standpoint, we have NBC Sports and our relationship with NBC, which is long-term, as we announced back in June. We also launched a YouTube broadcast globally. It's geo-blocked in the U.S., but The audience growth is massive, and of course, as we go into markets, we're working with our race promoters to let them know that IMSA is coming to town, and pre-race events, and we'll do the IMSA premiere across the street at One Daytona here this week. But also then you look at those 18 auto manufacturers, you look at WeatherTech, you look at Michelin. They are here participating. They're executing, they're running their programs. However, beyond that, they're marketing, whether that's through broadcast, through social media, digital advertising, launching road cars. Mazda's gonna do a launch here this week. BMW is going to do a launch this week, I believe.
Wow.
And so the auto manufacturers and companies like WeatherTech and Michelin are using this as a place to tell consumers about their product. And for us in motorsport, that's absolutely the sweetest spot you could be in.
And you mentioned like just showcasing consumers, and I think just the proof's in the pudding just how the growth of IMSA from a spectator standpoint has become. It's definitely something that you guys can build on. But with that being said, to build on, what would you say would be the biggest goal of IMSA in 2025 as far as what, as a sanctioned body, what you guys are hoping to achieve this year?
Well, I think continued audience growth. We're seeing a massive uptick in audience growth. Welcome back. Good to see you, mate. Massive audience growth the last couple of years, and I certainly hope that continues. Yesterday was the first day ever for the IMSA STEM program, thanks to Gainbridge and Konica Minolta. We had nearly 30 local top STEM education students here visiting with Michelin, visiting with Whelen Cadillac Racing, visiting our tech inspection, visiting OMP and Bell Helmets about safety. So not only educating on the marketing side to buyers of today, but the future buyers. Here today we have 4,000 Cub Scouts and Girl Scouts here visiting. So we gotta attack from a marketing standpoint that next generation audience with our story.
I love it. And I just want to say this in closing. I've seen you all morning. You never stop. You never say no. Shake everybody's hand. You heard in the audio piece a minute ago a couple of representatives from Mercedes coming by shaking hands. Had a nice conversation with everybody at Lamborghini. John, safe to say, truly a man of the people and definitely a well-respected man in this paddock and garage. Got another one right here. But John, I know you're a busy man. Thank you so much for giving me a couple minutes of your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate
for your work
it.
And all your listeners, please come out to a race, Danny, and have a great 2025 season. And come see us at a racetrack or tune in on NBC or Peacock or YouTube.
IMSA President John Doonan, everybody. Huge thank you to John for taking the time to speak with me in the paddock on Saturday morning. You gotta love his energy and his optimism for where the series is headed. And they have one heck of a 2025 season laid out. And before we end today's show, I do want to go over that 2025 schedule with you. The season kicks off, as we mentioned, this weekend with the 63rd running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. From there, they will complete what's known as the 36 Hours of Florida, the 73rd running of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring will take place Saturday, March 15th. After that, it will be a cross-country trek to Long Beach, California, as IMSA will also play part of the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach weekend. And then they will stay in California. They'll go up the coast to Northern California, the Monterey Peninsula. They'll race at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca on May 11th. From their two-race California swing, the series will head back east. They will make a stop on the streets of Detroit May 31st for round 5 of the championship, and then they will break for the famed 24 Hours of Le Mans, but they will not get much rest after that, as they will head to Watkins Glen, New York for the Sailing 6 Hours of the Glen, the third endurance race of the season, which is part of the 5-race Michelin Endurance Cup. After Watkins Glen, the GTP cars will get their first off weekend of the season. Well, yes, their first off weekend of the season. While the rest of the categories, LMP2, GTD Pro, and GTD will head to Canada for the Chevrolet Grand Prix July 13th. The series then returns to Road America in Wisconsin for round 8 of the championship on August 3rd. And then we will have the Michelin GT Challenge, the GT only round for both GTD Pro and GTD, August 24th at Virginia International Raceway. Then for the final 2 rounds is all endurance racing with the TireRack.com Battle of the Bricks 6-hour contest at Indianapolis Motor Speedway September 21st, and will crown the champions of IMSA Saturday, October 11th at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta at the Motul Petit Le Mans, the 28th running of the great event. And as John mentioned in my interview, you will be able to catch the entire IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship season here in the U.S., courtesy of NBC Sports. Every race will be streamed live on Peacock. Select races will be broadcast on NBC and USA Network throughout the course of the season. For more information on air times and broadcast, go to IMSA.com. They'll have all the info for you. And that'll do it for this episode of the Not Speeding, Just Qualifying podcast. Again, special thanks to John Doonan, president of IMSA, for his time during the Roar this past weekend for a few words. And John mentioned in his interview about the massive manufacturer involvement. When it comes to sports car racing, the cars are the stars of the show. And tomorrow we're going to talk not just about the cars that are on track, but we'll talk a little bit about the teams that run them and another great interview in store. Until then, catch me on Instagram at beloved.n.unbowed. I'm on X at DA Lawrence Jr. And I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook, David A. Lawrence. You can also reach out to DAL Motorsports on X, Instagram, and if they haven't gotten rid of it yet, TikTok. But until then, thank you guys so much for listening. I'm David Lawrence, and remember, make sure you're living life flat out. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.